Okay, hello, good evening, everyone. Today we are going to do our first lab session. And first, I will go through some slides and to help you wrap up of the lectures we used to last week. We have been practiced. And in the first lecture, we have implement our first program that is printing a line of text. And that is something we call welcome code. Like you create a class that is welcome, and in the code, you write a sentence in a double quote that is, I'm something. Okay, welcome to Java programming. Anything that you would like to say in the double quote. Once you have finished this program and you run this code, and here is the output for the from the console. This is what we have done with our first program. And for regular programs, and we can use a double slash to indicate that this line is a comment. And we can also using a slash with a star that is a multiple comments that can be spread over several lines. And all the text between the delimiters is will be ignored by the compiler. And there are some the other way to make comments is you start with a slash and then followed by a 2 and end by 1 with a slash. Means that all text between the Java comment delimiters will be ignored by the compiler. And all the 3 ways you can make the code that enabled to be implemented. And in our code, we usually using a blank lines to separate characters and the tabs, and those makes program easy to read, and they are known as white space. And using white space is to enhance the program readability. And for a regular class, we usually declare the class in such a way that public class and followed by the welcome, which is also the Java doc file name. And every Java program consists of at least one class that you define there. And the class keyword introduce a class declaration, and it is immediately followed by the class name. And there are several keywords, and I have uploaded a link to the W3 School set for your reference, and it is also listed in the Appendix C in our textbook. For those keywords, they are reserved for use by Java and are always spelled with all lowercase letters. We have mentioned a lot of times that the file name should be consistent with our class name. So in the first example, we named the file welcome, and we also give a name of the class is also welcome, that making them the same. And a public class must be placed in a file that has a file name of the form of classname.java, so that the welcome is stored in the file welcome.java file. And a compilation error occurs if a public class file name is not exactly the same name as the class. And we have been demoed that once I change the name in other words, and the compiler will throw out an error message to me, indicate that they are incompatible. For class names and identifiers, by convention, for class names, they also begin with a capital letter and capitalize the first letter of each word they include, such as, for example, this one sample class names. For the samples, they capitalize the S. For the second word class, C is upper cases. And for the last one, N is capitalized. And the class name is an identifier that a series of characters consisting of letters, digits, underscores, and dollar signs that those doesn't begin with a digit and doesn't contain spaces. And Java is case sensitive. The upper cases and the lower cases are distinct. That means for the lowercase a1, this is quite different from the upper cases a1. We have also mentioned that the class body is always wrapped with two braces, the left braces and the right braces. And also, this is also another way that we declaring a method. This, for the main method, PSVM, we implemented in the IntelliJ idea. It is the start point of every Java applications. Although I say that it is PSVM, which is the short for the public static void main and the string args. But you have to make sure that you remember each individual words in this line of method. Because I'm worried about that in your certification exam that they may ask you to write it by your own. In that case, you cannot only input PSVM. You have to input the whole sentence, the whole line of words by yourself without error. And the parentheses after the identifier main indicate that it is a program building block called a method. And the Java class declarations normally contain one or more methods, but although currently we only implement only one method there, which is the main method, but we can have more. And main must be defined and shown above, otherwise JVM will not execute the application. That means if you write wrong, if you made any mistake with this line of code, and the Java program cannot run. And the main method perform tasks and they can return informations when they complete their tasks. And the keyword void indicate that this method will not return any information. However, in the future, we will change the void keywords into some other types. And in those cases, we will also change the return line of codes. I will demo in the future, but currently we only need to remember how to using the void thing. And for the body of the method declarations, and they always enclosed in the left and the right braces. Between that, those are statements like sort something. Sort is the shortcut for the system out print line, which is to output a line of text into our console. And it is an instruction for the computers to perform a specific action. And together, that's the quotation marks and the characters between them. Those are a string. And we also say a string is a sentence. And for the sentences, they are also known as the character string or string literal. With another thing is that the white space characters in strings are not ignored by the compiler, and it will output as what we input in the double quote. And for strings, they cannot span multiple lines of code. However, in our IntelliJ idea, if you are writing a pretty long sentences, the idea for the console may adjust the width of the sentence and maybe displayed in multiple lines. However, you have to remember that if you do not writing in separate lines, or you don't include any delimiters, they can only be one line. And this is some details about the system.out. It is a standard object in the Java. It allows a Java application to display information in the command window, and which is also known as the console, from which it executes. And the sort the system out dot print line method, it displays a line of text in the command window, and this string in the parentheses in the argument to the method, and positions the output cursor at the beginning of the next line in the command window. However, if we remove the ln here, after we execute this line of code, the cursor will stay in the same line. If we are with this ln, the cursor will go to a new line. That is what this line of sentence is saying. And most statements are end with a semicolon. And this is another way that we have been practiced in our first course, that compiling our first Java applications using the command line. That is, open a command window, and then we type the Java C instruction there. And after we type it, we will get a .class file in the same folder. And once we have those .javac file, and then we input the welcome.java instruction, and then the JVM loads the .class file and execute it. Once everything done, we can get the output in the terminal. Okay, here we are going to introduce something new. That is the new line characters, which indicates to the system out print and the print lines method that want to position the output cursor at the beginning of the next line in the command window. And new line characters are white spaces characters. The backslash is called an escape character. That means something behind the backslash will be skipped. And we will practice in our lab. For example, this is an example. Like if we use the backslash with an N here, that means we are going to skip the N, and then, however, we are still going to change a new line there. And you can always remember that a slash with an N is only meaning that it's going to change a new line. So in this case, the welcome followed by a backslash with an N, that means it will change. The cursor will go to the beginning of the next line. So that is the starting point of the two words. After two, it follows by another backslash with an N. That means the cursor needs to go to another line. That is the starting point of Java, etc. And that's, in this case, this line of sort print line welcome to Java programming with these three separators here, and this one line sentence is displayed by 4. And those are some other escape sequences, like the \n, it means a new line, and \t, it means a horizontal tab that we usually use it to format our output. And for the \r is a carriage return. That means the position the screen cursor at the beginning of the current line, and you do not advance to the next line. However, you go back to the characters. And any characters output after the carriage return will overwrite the characters previously output on that line. For those double backslashes, they used to print one individual backslash characters. And for those with backslash with one as individual double quote, it means that we have to print it, that it is used to print a double quote character. For example, here, we use a double quote, and in the double quote, we begin with a backslash with another double quote. That means the second double quote will be printed. And after the printed double quote, it will followed by the in quotes. So in this case, the console will display the double quote, in quotes, and another the right double quote and end. This is the output for the sentences with the black slash. And also there are also some other things we have to be mentioned that in our lab, we will also practice for the displaying text with printf. With printf, that means that this line of code, this method will be formatted. That means it will, the program will format the data and give it to the console to display. And multiple method arguments will be placed in a comma separated line list. And when we are calling a method, it is also referred to that we invoke a method. Java allows large statements to be split over many lines, but they cannot split a statement in the middle of an identifier or string. And another important thing that in our lab, you will find something like formatter specifiers begin with a percentage sign and followed by a characters that represent the data type. And the format specifier $s is a placeholder for string. We will practice for that. Don't worry about that. I just want to mention it in advance. And this is an example. However, we will practice another example. Like here, we use $s to indicate the welcome to this string. And with $n, that means we are going to change a line. And with $s, and this is indicating that this is the placeholder for the Java programming. And with the $n, that means we have to, the cursor need to change a new line. So that's why there are 3 lines. Also, the last one is invisible, is a space. But for the welcome to and Java programming, they're displayed in separate lines. And in the last lectures, we talking something about the adding integers, like the whole numbers, like minus 22, 7, 0, 1024. Those are integers, the whole numbers. And the programmers, they should remember numbers and other data in the computer's memory and access that data through program elements. They called variables. That means I give the name, I give the numbers a certain kind of place to live, and I give the place a name. That is variables. So in a simple word, that means the variables is a container, and the values is the content in the container. Here is what we have been demoed in the last lectures, that how can we get some input from our console and make some additions and the subtractions with the console reading integers that we give it to the program. And then we use the program output the result. So here, usually we will start importing the program that we will import the libraries and the classes we will use. Here, we only get involved with the scanner. So we have to remember, we have to import java.util.scanner. Always write this line of code in the first place. After that, we will create our class and the main method. In the main method, we always start with create a scanner to obtain the input from the command window. After that, we can prompt that indicate the users that we need to enter something. And then we use the scanner that we have created to read the first name numbers that we input in our console. And the input.nextInt will take the things we input in our program and give the value to the number 1 variable. And this the repeat thing is for the number 2. After that, we add them together and get the output the result. And here we use a $D that to display the sum. This is quite different from previous lectures, because the $D is a placeholder that when the program comes to the line 19, when it gets the result of the sum, and the sum will replace the $D as a specific value. And that is the output. Here we input 45 and 72, and the sum is 117. In the code, we input the $D, however, the percentage sign D. However, when the program runs to this line, it will replace the real value of the sum. That is it. So in this case, the percentage D will never come out to the console. Okay, we have complete this. And I will also introduce some memory concepts. And I have mentioned that variables are a place for the contents to live, right? It's like a container. So every variable should have a name. That means what is the address for this container? And what is a type? Like, does this contain a house, or townhouse, or a condo, something? And the size. Does this container occupies 2 bathrooms and 2 bedrooms, or 2 bedrooms with only 1 bathroom? And the value. The value means that the contents in the container, like 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that. When a new value is placed into a variable, the new value replaces the previous value. That means the value can change. For example, initially I assigned 1 to the variable I, but in the future I can change it to 2 or 100. Here is a visualization of the memory locations showing the name and value of the variable number 1. We give each number, like 45, we assign it to the number 1, and 72, we assign it to the number 2 variables. And for the sum, we also use another container to store the result. And here is, we will get touch with some little equality and the relational operators. For the conditions, we say that an expression can be true or false, like 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. We say this expression is true. If the statement or the expressions displaying that 1 plus 1 is 3, we say that this expression is false. And we will learn something about the if selection statement. But however, this will be repeated in the chapter 3 and chapter 4. So currently, you just need to have a notion of it. The if selection statement allows a program to make a decision based on the condition's value, that if something is true, like if today is Monday, the program should output, I have to go to the school. If today is Saturday, the program should indicate that, oh, today you don't need to go to the school. It's just to make a decision. We use double equal sign to indicate the equality. It is true It is truly to making comparisons. For the only one equation symbol, it means to assign a value. That is the difference. And if we want to say something, two things are not equal, we use this sign before the equation, meaning that they are not equal. And for the rational operators, the larger, smaller, larger and greater, and this is smaller and the equal. And both of the equality operators have the same level of precedence, which is lower than that of rational operators. That means if we have seen such kind of symbols in our math equations, we should do them first. But for those things should be after we implement the equality operator. And those are some common equality and rational operators there. This one means x is equal to y. Remember, if we only input one equal sign there, that means we assign a value. If double, that means the left and the right, they are equal. And this is not equal. This is greater, less, greater than, and less than. And we will practice a similar example of this figure. And I think it's almost done with our reviewing. So next, we will going to practice our first lab. That means if you have your laptop with you, please ensure to code with me, okay? If not, I saw somebody using the iPhone, but it's fine. Just to make sure that after the class, you have to practice on your own laptop. But for those who are with the computers, everybody with me, okay? So I will share my IntelliJ. Wait a moment. I know for coding, some concepts are too difficult to understand for you now. So don't try to understand everything. It's fine. Just code with me or just code following the code I uploaded if you currently cannot code. Because for coding, you have to practice by yourself. Only by try and error, you will get some notion of it. So here, I create a project. If you have your laptop with you, and I will wait for 1 minute for you to create such a project, and then we will practice the first problem that I have posted in the Brightspace. So I will continue. I will give you 2 minutes. I will continue after 35. Okay, I will copy the. Okay. I use the slash and the star sign to make comments. And that is the multiple comments, meaning that when I running this program, and for the first 6 lines, the program will ignore them. Okay, I will assume that you have been practiced with me. And now we have created a class, and then I will input the PSVM to create the main method there. Here, the question is, write an application that reads an integer and determine and prints whether it is odd or even. And we should use the remainder operator. An even number is a multiple of 2. Any multiple of 2 leaves a remainder of 0 when divided by 2. Okay, it requires us to read an integer. So that means we have to import the java.util.scanner. We have to always remember, if we have to input something, we have to write such a sentence of code. After we import the scanner, we then use this line of code, scanner input equal to new scanner system.in. This line of code is pretty fixed, that every time you want to use the scanner, you have to write such a thing in advance. The only thing you can change is the input. You can change it to another name. Then we should give it a prompt that telling the users that you should enter a integer, right? So that is quite easy. We have been practiced for a lot of time. So we use salt, and then in the double quote, we write enter integer. And since I want the entered number followed by the same line with the enter integer. Sorry, integer. So I use the print rather than the print ln, that is print a new line. So in this case, as long as I input something, it will be followed with after the first prompt. So here we declare a integer variable that is number. That means I tell the program that currently please create a container. Its type is int and the name is number for me. Create such a container for me. And then we use input dot next int. We use such a command to get the input from the user keyboard. And then we put such kind of value into our container just created. That is, read the number. So after that, we have to make our decisions that how can I distinguish it, whether it is an even number or an odd number. Okay, it gave us some hint, right? Using the remainder operator. So as we have been go throughout the slides that I have taught, that we can use the if statement. It's okay if you currently don't understand that, but you just follow me that using the if statement to make our decision. If something is true, like if number, this is the remainder operation 2, that is equal to 0. That means if the numbers mode 2 is equal to 0, that like it is such a thing like if the number is 4 mode 2, like 4 over 2 is 2, right? The remainder is 0. So if such a condition is true, then we should output the number is even. However, what if it is not 0? And I have also mentioned that if we want to say that something is not equal to, we just change the first equal symbol to such a sign. And then that means the number mod 2 is not equal to 0. And that is like 5. If 5 over 2, the answer is supposed to be 2 with a remainder 1, right? Because 2 multiplied by 2 is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. So here, the number is odd. We should give the user indication. Once that, this is the end of the main class and the main method, and this is the end of the main class. So let's try. Let's run it to see the output. Okay, now it is running, and the prompt asks me to enter an integer. So here I will enter 15. Once I press enter, so the program will calculate that, make the decision. Well, to make the decision whether this is true, like 15 mod 2, it is of course not equal to 1. It's supposed to be equal to 1. It is not equal to 0. It is supposed to be equal to 1, right? So here, it doesn't meet this condition. So it will skip and go to the second statement there that, okay, 15 over 2, its remainder is 1. 1 is not equal to 0, so the program will output this line. And that is our first question. So for this question, I will give you 5 minutes to practice. So after 6:48, I will come back and we will go to the second problem. So if you have your laptop with you, just follow each line of code I presented in the share screen, and then practice it. And after you write everything into your Java source file, and just click the run and see whether you can get the same result. Okay, I will assume that you have been practiced by yourself, so I will move on to the next question. So let me new a Java class. This is these problems are coming from the exercise. I picked several questions there. So after this lab session, I will upload the code solutions for you. So if you want to practice more, and at least you can have a reference to the right code, right? But however, some students, you can also turn to GitHub to find whether there is an existing solutions for chapter 3 or chapter 4 if you are learning ahead. Let me copy the questions description. It says that write an application that reads two integers, determine whether the first is a multiple of the second, and print the result. So it's still asking us to get some input from the user keyboard. That means we have to use the scanner. So each time, if we are going to input something from the keyboard, we have to import the scanner. .java.util.scanner. And then we have to PSVM create our main method. In the main method, we will create a scanner object input. Those are common patterns for solving such a problem. And then we can give some user. So inside is supposed to be system.in. And here we should give some user prompt. And how can we get the number, right? So first, let's declare a variable. Number 1. And since we already have a scanner object here, and so what we can do is use input dot next int to fetch the content we input in the console. And then we still need to enter the second numbers. So we just copy and make modifications. Okay, in case you can see everything clearly in the line, so I will not use the white space, white line there. Okay, so here we get the two different numbers, right? And then we have to make our decision. So how can we make our decision? And then we can use the if statement. If something is true, and then we output something. So here we make some comparisons. If the number 1 is multiplied by the other, that means number 1 mod number 2 supposed to be 0, no remainder. So we can write in such a way. And here, the if statement will make decision and judge whether the left part, which is number 1 mode number 2, and the second operand is 0, and we use an equal operators to decide whether the left and the right are the same. So if they are the same, that means this line of code is true. We will get into the body. And here we will output. Here we are going to format our output now. We said that we will practice, right? We will practice the placeholder. Here we used a percentage %D stands for the number 1. So here it is. The number 1 is a multiple of number 2, right? But the number 2 should use another placeholder that we can also use the $D. However, we should, for each placeholder, we should give it a variable name that is here. Okay. And let's see what's the problem of this line. Okay, here we should using F because we are format something. And how about, let's say we want to change a new line. So we try the $N to see whether it will give us a new line to the second output. So, and then the second output, we modified it. We changed the equal to be non-equal. It's not a multiple. Okay, sorry. Typo. Then that is our whole program. So let's check. Let's run it. Okay, here, as you can see, it asks me to enter the first number. In this case, I use print line. That means the input things, they create a new line after this prompt. So here I input, let me see, 15 here, and I enter. It will indicate me to input the second number. Let's say it's a 5. So 15 is a multiple of 5, as 5 multiplied by 3 is 15. Then let me enter to see what kinds of output we will have. Here it will indicate that 15 is a multiple. Okay, sorry, I made the typo here, of 5. Okay, let's rerun. Okay, here he said 15 is a multiple of 5. In this sentence, when the program runs to this line, so as we can see, the number 1 is supposed to be 15 we entered, and this 15 will replace this percentage %D in the first place. And the second variable here, number 2, we say that is 5, will replace the second $sign of the percentage sign $D here. And it will create a new line, which is here. And how about if I change it to, like, the first number is 15 and the second number is 2. So 15 is not a multiple of 2, right? So let's see the output. Oh, yeah, it output correctly. 15 is not a multiple of 2 because here we made our decision using the if statement here. Number 1, mode number 2 is not 0. And then it will execute this line of code. And for this code, I will also give you 5 minutes to practice on your own. Write your own code and you will feel much more comfortable in the future courses. Okay, I saw a message there. Pretty neat. Okay. 5 minutes, I think, is enough. And you can try if you have more time in the future, like how about what if I change it to double, right? Okay, can I still using the input dot next int here? We can try together. 5. Okay, yes. But what if I change here to next double? Right? Can it still run? Oh, it cannot even compile here. It gives us some error here. We can click this corner. It has some red sign indicate that, oh, incompatible types. Found double require int. So we cannot read a double and assign it to int. All right. Then we will move on to the second questions. So let me new a Java class. Let me see what is the name for that. Diameter. He asks us to, let me copy the description. Manipulate. This is pretty long. Since the question description is pretty long, so I will use my own words to describe this program. For the second problem, it is we should read a number as the radius and calculate for the diameter for a circle. As we all know that the diameter, right? Diameter is always equal to 2 multiplied by pi and multiplied by the radius. We are going to implement this formula. So same thing, we have to import the, actually, if you are using IntelliJ, I don't know whether VS Code can or not, but the IntelliJ can. Once you input the scanner directly here, it will automatically import this sentence. This is a trick. So here we new a scanner object, and the input is new scanner. It's a pretty fixed line of code. Each time if we want to use it, we have to type the same thing. And then we give the user some prompt that, oh, sorry. I didn't write the main method. Here, we give it some prompt. Please enter the diameter or the radius. Let's get a space here. And then we should fetch the content from the user input. So here we will firstly declare a placeholder, a container that is the integer type. No, we use the radius as its variable names directly. And then we use the input, which is the scanner, dot next int to get the user input here. Once we get such a thing, we can sort out to see whether we get the correct thing. The radius is as we have mentioned, we already learned that how to use a placeholder to format the output. So if we want to use the placeholder here, we have to change it to F, and then we create a new line here. We can concatenate them together, and then we use a comma to separate the sentence and the variables. We want to output the radius. Then we can try first. Debug and try, debug and try. Okay, let's enter the radius. Let's say 5. Okay, until the line 16 is working fine. Then we can calculate the radius now. So we have mentioned that the pi we can use a named constant, right? We can declare like final int. Use the upper capital characters to indicate that it is a named constant. And then we can use it directly. Oh, it is not int, it is double or float. Okay, and then since the pi is a float type number, so for the diameters, it should also be a float type. So here we are going to declare a float diameter, and that is equal to 2 multiplied by pi, right? Pi we have already declared here. It is 3.14159. And then multiply by radius we just got from the keyboard input. Okay. And then once we get the result, and the result will be assigned to the diameter, this variable. And here we can output the diameter is I think F for float numbers, we should using F. It seems that in the slides they didn't mention, but let's try. Diameter. Oh, here. Okay. Okay, and then let's run the code to see whether we can get the right result. Suppose the radius is 1, because it is pretty straightforward, right? Okay, the radius is 1 and the diameter is double pi, that is 6.28. Okay, it is correct. Now, okay, I will give you 3 minutes for this program. I don't think it is difficult for you to understand now, so I will shorten the time in case that somebody will come to me to the office hours, which is not enough for half hour. Okay, 3 minutes. Please practice on your local laptop. Okay, we will continue with our next problem. Okay, I have to reformat for this one. And I want to rename it. Reflect. Okay, rename E02 since this one. Okay. Then comes to the last problems we are going to practice. It seems that is 35 for in the exercise. Daily balancing. Okay, the exercise is pretty long, and I will using short sentences to describe such a problem. That we should input our cost miles per day and the cost per gallons, average miles, and packing fees, and then we have to calculate the things to calculate the daily driving cost for us. So if you cannot remember the problems, please go to the announcement, or you can find it in the assignment 1. Get the chapters, get to the chapter 2 and go to the exercise 35. The question is pretty long, but it's okay. So here, let's start. We create our main method here, and also we have to use the scanner to get something from the keyboard. Okay, why is scanner's problem? Let's see. Cannot resolve simple scanner. Hmm. It's supposed to be correct, right? PSVN scanner. Let me check whether they have something. Or let me do such a way. Oh, I know. I forgot to write the variable name, the object name input. And then once I have done, so let me write some prompt for the users. Please enter the number of miles you drive per day. And we don't want to create new lines, so we remove the ln here. And then we create a variable, declare a variable int miles driven. We use the input to get the user input. Next int. And we should get another prompt. We use another prompt to get the cost per gallon. You decide by yourself. Enter the cost per gallon. Or you can say in cents. So here in cost per, sorry. gallon. We also use the int object to get the user input. Then we have to decide average miles per gallon of gas, right? So enter the cost per, let me see, enter the average miles per gallon of gases. Oh, here, we have to remove all the ln here so that everything can be displayed in one line. Average miles per gallon. Okay, what things we still have to get? Okay, and the parking fees per day, right? So enter the parking fee per day. We say in cents. Sorry. And int park fees. We're always using the same input object to get our new integers, new user input. And I think we should still enter the tolls per day. Hey. So here we have get everything we need to calculate per the question. The question is pretty long, so if you are reviewing this question, please read the original problem statement carefully. And here we will using declare a variable, a float variable that is the result for us, result to calculate. So how can we calculate the daily driving cost? So we say that it is supposed to be, I think in the book, they gave us some formulas. That is like we say cost per gallon should over 100. And it will times the miles we driven each day, and it over the average miles per gallon, and then this thing supposed to plus the, since the fees are all in cents, so we have to use to divisor, and we can go to a new line. Plus parking fees over 100 plus tolls over 0. We can create a new line here. And I think this is, wow. Let's see. Compatible. Oh, this is float. Got it. We should input. Since we declare a float type number, so in each decimal float number, we should add the F to indicate that it is a float number. So the result, we can get the result using such a formula. Then we can output the result. Salt. The daily driving cost is dollar. This is a sign. Okay, we use a placeholder, multiple F. And we change a new line. This is supposed to be result. Okay, let me see what's the problem again. Okay, here, I forgot every time. Sorry for that. Okay, we can try this now. Let's run. Okay, please enter the number of miles you drive per day. Why here is a problem? Okay, let's rerun. Please enter the number of miles we drive per day. I drive 1 miles per day, and the cost per gallon in cents is 200, let's say. And the average miles per gallon of gases, average miles per gallon, let's say 2. And enter the parking fees per day in cents. We say 500 cents. And the tolls per day in cents. Let's say 300. So it says that the daily driving cost is $9. Okay, I have to format it. Okay. So let's try again. 1 day per gases in cents. I'm sorry that I always write something wrong, but it is how the code works. If it is wrong, just redo it. Okay, per day, 1. 200. I'm debugging it. 1, 2. Oh, cost per gallon. Okay. 2 is 2. 2, 2, 2. Okay. It can output a number successfully. However, as we can see here, the floating point number, it has a pretty long tail. So in this case, we can format it like between the dollar sign and the F, we use a dot to indicate that we just need to keep 2 digits after the dot decimal here. So we have to remember 1, 2, 2, 2, 2. Okay, let's try. 1, 2, 2, 2, 2. Okay, in this case, as we can see, once we're using such a format, it will only keep the 2 digits there. So this is the last questions in this lab. Please practice it by yourself. And once you have done, you can leave. If you have any questions, you can share your screen to me. And that's it. That is for today's class. Okay, I will wait here. Okay. Okay, Ryan, you can if you are working for you, you can leave now. Good night. Great. Okay. Okay, for those who don't understand who are the first time programmer, be sure to practice it and let me know if you have any problems. Because in this course, there are some experienced programmers. They can learn by themselves and they can program everything pretty fast and smoothly. But for those who are the first time programming, you don't worry, just keep the pace with me and I will always be here to debug for you. Programming applications? You mean using IntelliJ or VS Code or something? I use IntelliJ. Oh, for learning? Oh, I don't know because when I was the first time studying Java, I looking I listen in the course, but however I cannot understand. Then I practice some other problems following YouTube videos.
I was gonna say there is a website I think that shows or teaches. So I think W3 schools, I think. Something like that. Hold on, let me check.
Yeah. Um, for the reward things, I think in the Brightspace there is a module that directs you to go to the recordings, right?
Yeah, I sent the link if he wants to use that so you can. It's
Wow,
like
thank
a,
you.
yeah, no problem.
Okay, good night. Currently, don't worry too much about the things that you don't understand. As long as you can making the program wrong, as long as you can making the program wrong, everything will be pretty easy after you practice more. I used to be an accounting student. I start learning Java after I'm 26. After working for a long time, I still can learn. So don't worry about that. Java is not difficult. Although I understand at the beginning, there are a lot of concepts and the way of coding maybe make you pretty upset, but just try your best making every demo run on your laptop. Another way is that if your program cannot run, just go to the ChatGPT. Okay, there are only two students. Anthony, Evan.
I'm just making sure this runs.
Okay, okay. Your practice, right?
Yeah, yeah. Sorry. All right, yeah, I got it to work. All right,
Okay, okay. See you.
see you. Have a good night.
Good night.